Hello, this is Dr. Ford Brewer with PrevMed, heart attack, stroke, cancer, disability prevention. I started a series, this is number 2, on what the health versus fat chance. What the health is a recent video about, it's about the food industry and creating drama around conspiracies to treat animals bad and kill humans early with bad diets. But basically, it's a plea for a plant-based plant-based diet. I have personal issues around that. I learned the value of a plant-based diet at Hopkins 30 years ago, and have been preaching that for 30 years. You know, if it takes a young man with a video doing an expose type thing, more power to him. But we got to clean up some of the bad science that's around it. You put that together with books like Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It by Gary Taubes, or Fat Chance by Robert Lustig. You know, they're talking about, no, sugar causes all of our problems. Here's the issue. A lot of that is debate around obesity. The question is, which of these causes obesity? More of a fat-based diet, fat and protein, which you find in animals, or carbohydrates and fats, which you find in plant-based. So the reality is, I think there's evidence on both sides of that fence. I'm not so concerned about which is it. I don't think anybody would debate a couple of facts. Number one, diabetes is a major risk factor for early death, heart attack, stroke, disability, senility, all the bad things that are really hammering our population. Cancer as well. There's another thing. I don't think anybody would argue that obesity drives diabetes. There are diabetics that have that are not diabetic. I mean, there are obese people that are not diabetic. There are also people that are in their 65, late 60s, early 70s that are not insulin resistant or diabetic. But both of those are exceptions, because the thing that drives diabetes is, number one, aging, and number two, obesity. So let's get back to looking at foods, plant-based foods that are healthy, and they're good for diabetics. Actually, one of the major scientists that was quoted over and over was a fellow named Dr. Neil Barnard. Dr. Barnard has said, and there is evidence out there, there's studies that say vegetarian or plant-based diet or vegan diet is good for diabetics. Well, I'm going to go through some more foods here. And again, we've got some bad foods around this house. I'm not eating them, and I don't approve of my family eating them, but anyhow, that's a different issue. Multigrain, well, that's got to be good, right? Gluten-free, oh, that's great. Well, the problem is, look at those carbs. Can you see that? Total carbs, 24 grams. Here we go. If you're diabetic or insulin resistant and you're trying to keep your grams to 40, 60, 80, one serving of those is a major chunk of your grams per day. Well, you've heard that sweet potatoes are good, right? And so those of us who want to get crackers, well, maybe if we do a sweet potato cracker, we're good. Well, again, look at it. Maybe not as bad as the last crackers, but 18 grams in just one snack. And these are small snacks. I'll just remind you, one of the things to look at on these things is the amount of food. This is Triscuits, by the way. Those are really healthy, right? They've got a lot of whole grains, and whole grains are healthy. Well, to them, one serving size is 6 crackers. Back when I I went through a phase of a couple of years of eating crackers. I did eat Triscuits a good bit. I could never, well, I did occasionally eat 6 crackers, but usually I'd try to eat 3, keep it to that, eat 3 more a little bit later, and eat 3 or 4 or 6 more later on. And all that's doing is a constant stimulus, recurring stimulus to a pre-diabetic pancreas. When I became pre-diabetic, I cut out the crackers. And here's why. Again, carbohydrates just in 6 crackers, 20 grams. Again, that is a major challenge for insulin-resistant people. And if you believe the hormonal theory, that's explained very well in Why We Get Fat and What to Do About It, or Fat Chance. If you believe in that theory, then it's not good for pre-diabetics either, because it's going to make them fat. Mary's Gone Crackers is actually one of those companies that's trying to make snack crackers healthy. And she does have a couple of not so bad options. However, as you can see here, oh, the other thing is, look, it's got kale. So kale's got to be good, right? No. Again, 1 serving, 12 crackers. At least she's not lying about not being conservative about the amount. And they don't taste as addictive as Triscuits, by the way. So you can eat, actually you can eat 6 of these and not continue to eat more. Still, 21 grams. Bottom line is, if you think about snack foods like crackers, plant-based snack crackers are just not that good for somebody with insulin resistance. Another one was sweet potatoes, and again, 22 grams. I have to admit, I bought some of these myself, and I know it's terrible, but we haven't cleaned out our pantry, the back of our pantry, in a couple of years, so I found some of these there. Okay, so that's talking about crackers. Well, let's talk about pasta. Pasta is very healthy, right? And as Dr. Neil Bernard said, a plant-based diet is very good for a diabetic. Well, there's no animal products in this spaghetti. However, although you're likely to add some if you add meat to the sauce. 1 serving, 42 grams of carbohydrate. So now you begin to see that, and maybe Dr. Barnard's research saying that plant-based foods were good for diabetics, maybe there was some clarification around that. I certainly hope so, because I, again, would make the point that plant-based does not necessarily mean good for everybody and every plant, everything. Here's another one, cream of buckwheat. Many of you have heard that cream of buckwheat is really good for you. It's got a very low glycemic index. And there may be some truth to that. Just be aware, though, even cream of buckwheat, which is supposed to be great, 36 grams. 36 grams of carbohydrate. So, again, I'm trying to go through some details and help give you some perspective from my background. As checkered as it might be in this area, what's the deal with plant-based foods? You can't just rely on, well, it's plant-based, so it's good for you, even if you're diabetic. Read Jenny Rule's book, Blood Sugar 101, or Richard Bernstein's book, Diabetic Solution, or do it yourself. Get a glucometer at the store and check your glucometer after eating things like pasta. 42 grams. So, again, we have to be careful and think and read food labels. There's another book called SOS, Stop Only Sugar. It sounds like an oversimplified book, but actually once you get into it, it's a very good book. It talks about the value of reading food labels. In case you haven't, I mentioned this before, if you haven't noticed my accent, I'm from the South. Grits was a major go-to food for me. If you look at grits, one serving of grits, 29 grams of carbohydrates. Now, again, that was pre-diabetic. It was only 130 calories. So actually, grits, they're not a bad option for people that don't have a problem metabolizing carbohydrates. Again, unless you believe the hormonal theory of fats or of weight gain. Here's another grain, quinoa. Any guesses on the carbs there? 18 grams. That's actually not bad, but when you look at this, you think, man, well, that's maybe a healthy meal, but look, could I survive? Could that be a whole meal for me? It's only 130 calories. Again, that's like eating a serving of grits with nothing in it. Small. Speaking of full meals, this looks healthy, right? It's non-GMO. You see that right here? Well, it must be healthy. Non-GMO is a whole separate issue, and I maybe shouldn't have even raised it. This is vegan. It's got peas in it, tomatoes, potatoes, kale, garlic, olive oil, 260 calories, 35 grams of carbs. So again, if you start going low carb is not easy, but remaining high carb is a major tax on your beta cells of your pancreas. So let's talk about a couple of other things. Maybe the worst challenge you can get on your pancreas is sugars in water. That would be orange juice. That would be sweetened tea. What is this? 30 grams of sugar in just 12 ounces. The tea has caffeine in it, and Starbucks has a major chunk of caffeine in it. But they have less carbs. They have 28. Obviously, I was being facetious about the carbs. Now, there are people that would tell you that diet soft drinks are dangerous as well. There's actually some evidence around that. It has to do with the gut biome, the impact on the brain. I'm not going to get into that. I've done, at least for this video, I've done that in others. The video, What the Health, makes heroes out of these guys. It's Hampton Creek. They're developing a whole group of egg products. As you see, their logo is an egg with a plant in it. Actually, mayonnaise is very, very high. This is healthy mayonnaise, but it's very high fat and very high calorie. 1 tablespoon is 90 calories of fat. So, I'm not saying it's bad for you. Actually, I eat that. I also eat. There are other vegetable replacements for it used to be animal fat food, or animal foods. This is one as well. And I eat that as well because I'm watching my carbs. I'm trying to stay 40 to 80 net carbs, and I'm not going to get into the issue of net carbs in this discussion. As you can see, though, I'm going over food labels and trying to help give some perspective on food labels. I'll do a couple more and then I'll let it go. We actually recommend dark chocolate for our patients because of the cardioprotective components inside cocoa. We recommend that it's 70% or more cocoa. And as you can see, this lint is 90% cocoa. We recommend 1 square a day. And it still has carbohydrate. Actually, it's got 3 grams of carbohydrate. 4 squares is the serving they recommend. And that has 12 grams of carbohydrate. So, last couple of items. Oh, here's another great plant-based food, right? If I'm going to eat plant-based, that means cookies are really good for me. Well, no, they're not. I think, who's going to argue that cookies are good for you? So, again, just making the point, just because it's plant-based doesn't mean that it's healthy. 1 cookie, 280 calories. Calories from fat, 60. How many carbohydrates? 52. That's more than a day's worth of carbohydrates for me in 1 cookie. So, there's more I'd love to share, but I'm going on. Thank you for your attention.